Yo, what's up guys? It is Abop, and in today's video we are going to talk about how we can buff every single weapon on the heavy class. Now of course, not every single weapon does need a buff, but it will be fun talking about what direction we could probably push things if they are over or underperforming. So I'm going to start talking about the fully automatic weapons first, but please keep in mind that I believe I save the best ideas for last when I go over the melee weapons and the grenade launcher, especially the grenade launcher. The M60 is in a very good spot, is very well rounded, and honestly it doesn't really need any buffs, but I like the idea of heavy having that constant uptime, that sustained damage, which is the opposite of what you see on the light class where you're leaning more towards burst damage. So what we could do to achieve that is either a faster reload speed or just round out that magazine to 100 rounds. Now we have the Lewis gun. The Lewis gun is actually still a very powerful weapon. It still does shred. The biggest problem with it is that you can barely hit any of your shots because of how much recoil that weapon has. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if universally most weapons have a little bit less recoil, because compared to the TTK, this game has a lot of recoil. Every high TTK game that I can think of has much lower recoil. And of course, this is a completely different game, so you know, it's whatever. But the Lewis in particular definitely could use a recoil buff. Another thing that I think that could help the Lewis gun is a bespoke sight, something that's nice and clear, fits the aesthetic of the old school style weapon, and give it a slight zoom to help with that mid-range engagement that the Lewis is really good at. Speaking of bespoke sights, I want to talk about the Shak. The Shak is a very powerful weapon, and it could totally benefit from some nipples. I think if we took the default sight and just added 2 little dots to where the bullets are going to go, I think it would help with not just the new player experience, but a bit of a quality of life thing too. It would help remind people that this gun is actually shooting 2 bullets, or even people that just click around on guns just to try them out. Maybe it would let them know in a way or hint towards that it's shooting 2 bullets. Now, for those of you that don't know, the adder sight does do this in a way. The bullets actually go right where the little red lines start, but this sight still doesn't really sell the idea that the gun is actually shooting 2 bullets. The minigun is a very fun and interesting weapon, but I think that it has enough drawbacks, as in the movement penalty and the spool up penalty are enough to where I don't think the reload speed should be so punishing. So I think a faster reload speed would really help this gun be a bit more fun and enjoyable without being annoying. I do think that a larger magazine capacity could probably make the gun annoying, but I mean, who knows? Now let's talk about the Deagles. The Deagles, in my opinion, are very well balanced, and I think that Embark did a good job at making sure that this long range weapon on heavy doesn't become super annoying. You do have to pace yourself, slow yourself down, and make sure you learn the gun. So it's a great gun. So I can't really think of any buffs for the Desert Eagle, but I can think of a quality of life adjustment, and what that would be is make it so you can zoom or aim while you're reloading. Now you can already do this with every single weapon that you can ADS with, just not weapons that you can zoom in with. And I think that it would be pretty beneficial to a weapon like the Deagles, because it would help you get that aim or zoom in bonus from your first bullet if you want to shoot as soon as you're done reloading. Now this is especially punishing on the KS-23, so let's talk about that weapon. The KS-23 is in a very weird spot because it's not a bad weapon. It's still a very fun and good weapon to use, but it has a lot of drawbacks, and those drawbacks are very annoying. I'm going to talk about 2 quality of life adjustments first, and of course the first one is being able to aim while you're reloading so that first shot that you shoot actually hits, and more importantly, somehow fix this weird input delay, click timing, input queue. I don't know exactly what it is, but for some of you that use lower rate of fire weapons like the sniper rifle, the KS, maybe the Deagles, the repeaters, you might have noticed that sometimes when you click and stop clicking, the next shot will still fire anyways. I will try to show you what this looks like. Hello, it is Editing Abop, and this is actually very difficult to do on purpose, but I'm gonna try to show you with the sniper rifle because it's the lowest rate of fire weapon, I think. And you click, if I click slow enough, of course it's gonna fire on the right timing. But if you click right before you're supposed to, right before it resets, of course, can't do it on purpose. Let's keep trying. I think that was pretty delayed. It's really, really hard to do on purpose, but it is one of those things where when you're in a game and you're spamming your mouse, you get off target. So you stop the spamming of the mouse, you stop the clicking, but it fires anyways. It does make a very big and significant difference, even though it's hard to do on purpose and it is just milliseconds. Now, this may not seem like that big of a deal, but it could be throwing your aim off a lot more than you think. When I play other games where it doesn't have this, I noticed that I'm able to hit my target a bit more consistently when it comes to these lower rate of fire weapons. So let's talk about an actual buff. I think that if we were able to reload the weapon faster by double feeding it every time we needed more than one bullet, I think that would be a huge and proper buff for the KS-23. I think that weapon is very frustrating when it comes to how much downtime it has. I feel like I am constantly reloading. I feel like once I make a rotation, break a wall, I can barely get into a fight. I miss one shot and I'm screwed. It is a very punishing weapon for missing your shots, which is fair, but then I can't even use it for the utility. Like it's a lot. Now let's talk about the SA-12. The SA-12 is in an interesting spot because it is a very good competitive weapon, but you almost never see it in casual play. Now, this is one of those weapons that are very scary to touch. You can do one wrong thing and then it's really bad or it's really OP. But I think that if Embark can lean towards slightly increasing the TTK, so reducing the damage in some sort of way, but making it more consistent, maybe adding 2 more pellets on the outside of that spread and maybe increasing the range a little bit, but again, it has less damage, that might help where it can be used in both casual and competitive play. But who knows? This is a very touchy weapon. Shotguns in general are very hard to balance. Flamethrower is like the perfect weapon for heavy. It has utility, has a lot of uptime, a decent reload speed. You can spam it. It has that CQB dominance, even a little bit of crowd control. I think it's a very, very good weapon and it's perfect for the heavy class. Super unique. I think simply leaning into the util a little more can help that weapon. Make it so if you just spam the ground a little bit, eventually it will catch on fire like a pyro grenade, but maybe that's a little too much. Who knows? I think it'd be pretty cool. Another thing that they might be able to do is increase the cone just a little bit so you're more likely to hit multiple enemies at one time, or if you're not that good at tracking enemies, it'll help make that damage a bit more consistent, but we really don't even need that. It's a good gun. Now let's start talking about melee weapons. I think this is pretty cool because I feel like every single melee weapon in the game could benefit from having 3 different attacks. So the hammer would work the same. Your primary click still swings left and right. Your secondary click still swings overhead. But if you hold your secondary click, you'll hold it over your head until you're ready to swing down, or until you hit the primary click while you're holding the secondary click to swing her under you, like the underhand swing that they do in the heavy hitters game mode. And this could provide a very, very slight knockback effect, maybe a meter or 2. Now, of course, knockback effects could get very annoying or have some unintended interactions, but I think it would be very cool to put that, if possible, on all of the heavies melee weapons, just how all of the medium melee weapons block in a way. And when I get to light, all of the light weapons could increase their movement speed or have some sort of utility behind movement in a way. I know dagger is going to sound scary, but when I get there, I'll get there. So the spear would need slightly different controls. In my opinion, you would have your primary click, which works the way it does now, and your secondary click would actually be the charge to throw, and you would hold the spear up and throw it, do a little bit of damage, like 60 maybe, and a very slight knockback effect, maybe even less than a hammer. and maybe even be down the weapon for a second or two to kind of create some drawbacks. But if you hold it as if you're going to throw it and then you right click or you primary click, that's when you do the spin. So it sounds a little confusing, but I think it would be pretty easy to get used to. Now let's talk about a rework to Heavy's MGL. I believe there's a way to make the weapon better without increasing the damage, more fun, more interactive, and most importantly, make it to where people that are already good at the weapon can use it exactly the way they are now. Now, this is pretty simple. Your primary click works exactly the same. You shoot the grenades, they still bounce, same trajectory and everything, but now your secondary click will explode any of the grenades that have left the grenade launcher. Not only do I think that this would be pretty fun and be a little bit of a skill to learn, but it does seem pretty balanced. If you're at a distance, you are actually slowing down your maximum damage output if you're detonating all your grenades, because by the time the first one reaches, the second one is in the air, and when they both blow up, you're just wasting that second grenade. So you would either have to slow down and get your timing right or use the regular primary fire mode. Also, if it does become too annoying or too spammable, Embark could always add a delay after the detonation. So if you detonate, there might be a delay before you can fire the weapon again. That'd be a good way to balance the weapon out, but I think it's a great idea. Either way, if you made it this far, I appreciate it more than you would ever know. Leave a like and subscribe. I want to get to 3,000 one day, and thank you.